This episode is brought to you by The Build, a new podcast from the guys behind Sincera, Mike O'Sullivan and Ian Myers. They built their company by figuring out clever solutions to a few important ad tech problems in their industry. And that's exactly what this show is about. Mike and Ian interview some of the smartest tech minds in the biz to hear about how they identified opportunities, solved their hardest challenges, and grew their businesses in the process. Listen to The Build with Mike O'Sullivan wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is sponsored by Plod AI. We've all been there. You're days away from a deadline and you remember a brilliant idea from a brainstorming session, but you can't find it in your notes. It's frustrating, confusing, and frankly, a waste of time. Recently, I've integrated Plod AI, that's P-L-A-U-D, into my daily workflow, and it's a game changer for staying organized. Plod isn't just an app, it's a hardware-software powerhouse. I use the Note Pro for phone calls, Note Pen for my in-person meetings, and the new Plod desktop app for all my virtual sessions. With one click, it records everything and generates an accurate, searchable transcript. But the real magic is the Ask Plod feature. I can literally ask questions about a meeting from 3 weeks ago and get an instant answer. It turns every conversation into a searchable asset for me and my team. Stop taking notes and focus. Turn your meetings into actionable insights with the world's most advanced AI note taker. Learn more at plod.ai. That's Plaud.ai. And use the promo code CODESTORY, all one word, to get 10% off your purchase.
We've actually built 3 products so far, but our MVP and what we're going to market with is called Katana. And that is an infrastructure product. It comes in the form, it's a hybrid model of a software developer kit and an API. And it allows companies that are utilizing RAG, so retrieval augmented generation, for ChatGPT wrapper companies or whatever the case is, whenever you're utilizing data with AI. It allows you to plug our system in very easily. You can set it up in the span of an hour for the average developer. And then you're able to reap the benefits of reducing your vector storage, increasing your accuracy, and decreasing latency and getting much faster query speeds. My name is Ankit Dheendsa. I'm the Chief Technology Officer of Morphos AI.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do
took
next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their
A
back.
company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
Most
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes,
pain.
we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really
It's
want it.
not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how Ankit Dheendsa is cutting vector storage by 99.5% without trading away retrieval quality. Today's episode is brought to you by .tech Domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, I was building my startup and went hunting for that perfect .com and found next to nothing. So I did what every founder does, settled. Here's what I wish someone had told me. You're building a tech startup, just get a .tech domain. It instantly tells investors and customers what you're about. Don't overthink it. Secure your .tech domain today from any registrar of your choice. This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. Unblocked is the context layer your agents are missing. It synthesizes your PRs, docs, Slack, and tickets into organizational context that agents actually understand. So they make better plans, write higher quality code, use fewer tokens, and require fewer correction loops. If you're running Claude Code, Cursor, or any agentic workflow, Unblocked is worth a look. Learn more at getunblocked.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If your team is collecting large volumes of logs, metrics, and traces, but still struggling to get timely answers, Mesmo can help. Mesmo is an active telemetry platform that processes and enriches observability data in real time before it's stored or analyzed. That means lower data volume, lower cost, and faster root cause analysis across your existing observability tools. To see how it works, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's mezmo.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. If you are building with AI coding tools, but your features keep breaking, you need to check out BrainGrid. It is the product management agent for AI builders. BrainGrid turns messy ideas into clear specs, tasks, and prompts that coding agents like Cursor and Claude can actually build the right way. Ship real software, not fragile prototypes. Start free at braingrid.ai.
Ankit Dheendsa is a Canadian born and raised, living outside of Toronto today. He claims he is fortunate to have a great ecosystem of professionals and mentors in his area to help advise him through thick and thin. When he was younger, he was inspired to pursue building things after he watched Iron Man for the first time. But outside of tech, he's an avid boxer and kickboxer. He loves to work out and train, but when he's away from the mat, he likes to read a lot of books. Ankit and his team quickly realized that although the advent of AI was exciting, hallucinations within the LLMs area was a big problem. They started to dig into how to lower and/or eliminate hallucinations and ensure that LLMs only hold onto the most important data. And they landed on a powerful approach to vector size reduction. This is the creation story of Morphos AI.
Morphos AI at its core is an AI infrastructure company. And so what does that mean, right? What we specifically focus on is data and how do we reduce the size of it? So majority of people are very pixeled and know the term compression. It's been utilized for decades and it's very, very in demand and much needed technology in order to compress data across networks and workflows. What we do is we focus on data specifically for AI workflows. And as a result, you end up working with what we call vectors. And when I talk about vectors, I'm not talking about the Despicable Me villain. I'm talking about a multi-dimensional variable that describes data, right? So you can describe anything in the form of vector. I can describe a water bottle or an iPhone with different things, right? What does it look like? What are the colors? What are the dimensions, the sizes, the materials? All of those different data points describe a single object. And so that is what a vector is. When you store documents or data and you want to have, let's just say ChatGPT, utilize those documents to give you answers, right? If you utilize Notebook LM or ChatGPT to study or to do any type of work and you're storing data, then you have to store it in what we call a vector database. And the problem with vector databases is that they're so bloated that you're storing so much noise, right? So noise is data that you don't really need, but you have to store anyways. And as a result, we're starting to see RAM prices are going up. High bandwidth memory prices are going up. We've already sold up the supply for 2026. Everybody wants to put data centers everywhere. And Elon Musk is talking about putting them up in space. And Kevin O'Leary wants to do, I think, a 40,000 acre project in Utah. And energy prices are going up and all these things. That is because of the underlying issue that the data bloat is so large and the need for this data is paramount because you need to utilize for AI workflows. And so what we do is we reduce that data size by up to 99.5% without any form of compression. And what this results in is you get much faster queries when you're utilizing a model, let's just say ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini in conjunction with the data. We get up to 10x faster queries. We reduce the size of vector databases, which is actually very expensive to store data. Just for context, we would take an $8 million bill per year and turn it into 40,000, right? And so massive savings on vector storage. And we are able to get up to 95% accuracy, which is far better than any LLM will get you on its own. And in conjunction with some of the top industry standard and top industry compression models like Google's TurboQuant or Elastic's BBQ model, you don't get anywhere near that level of accuracy, right? So hallucination has been a big problem of LLMs. That's why they've had a hard time introducing some of these technology into specific industries such as medical or militech, because you can't afford for it to be wrong even once in those industries, right? How many times have you asked ChatGPT a question, it gives you a wrong answer, right? And it hallucinates. So those are the things that we solve for by reducing the vector size at its core by only keeping the most important information, the actual purity of your data, and getting rid of all of the noise.
Tell me about the MVP. I know there's a handful of products, or definitely one that has been brought up to my attention, but tell me about what you would consider the MVP for Morphos, and how long it take to build, and what sort of tools we're using to bring it to life.
We've actually built 3 products so far, but our MVP and what we're going to market with is called Katana. And that is an infrastructure product. It comes in the form, it's a hybrid model of a software developer kit and an API. And it allows companies that are utilizing RAG, so retrieval augmented generation, for ChatGPT wrapper companies or whatever the case is, whenever you're utilizing data with AI. It allows you to plug our system in very easily. You can set it up in the span of an hour for the average developer. And then you're able to reap the benefits of reducing your vector storage, increasing your accuracy, and decreasing latency and getting much faster query speeds. And so that's what we're going to market with. It's an infrastructure product specific B2B. However, we've also built, just to showcase the technology, we've built a ChatGPT wrapper that we call Key, which is basically ChatGPT. At the time we built it, we were utilizing 4.1. We built a custom UI with Lovable, and we slapped our technology on it just to showcase side by side, hey, if you upload a document to regular ChatGPT versus ours, what does the difference look like? And we were able to see massive gains. That would be more of a B2C product that we're not going to market with, but we just feel like there's more impact on the infrastructure side. And then finally, we actually, just to really showcase and hammer home how strong this technology is, we built a standalone device, and we put all of Wikipedia up until 2025 on a Raspberry Pi 5. And no internet connection, no server-side technology. We 3D printed the case, and we slapped on all of Wikipedia as well as a small language model, so you can actually query any question regarding Wikipedia completely on the edge, right? This has never been done before at this scale, and a small form factor like the one that we built, and we call it the Keyboy. And we're planning on iterating it to become an attachment to your iPhone or your Android, to be able to enable pure edge artificial intelligence and regain data sovereignty and becoming less reliant on third-party technologies. But in terms of building our actual MVP and the technology that we use, when you're building infrastructure products and you're building APIs and whatnot, you're pretty much utilizing the standard tech stack. We're building it in Python, PostgreSQL, Postman for API calls and whatnot. And so that's what we built. And in terms of how long, it took us about, I would say, 2 weeks to implement. But when you're building an infrastructure product like this, because the core technology had been developed over the course of 2 years, where you're testing it, you're breaking your own toys, you're figuring out where does it work and how do you iterate on it. Once you have that core solution finalized, creating the quote unquote wrappers around it and the connections around it is a relatively simple task. But that's what we were able to build in January. And ever since then, we've been running pilots with enterprise customers, and we're officially onboarding our first enterprise client this week with a larger scale enterprise with a lot of data. And so we've been seeing some really great results, and we're excited to see what the next steps are and where we can take it.
Today's episode is brought to you by .tech domains, and this one hits close to home. Back in 2016, when I was building my own tech startup, I went on the hunt for that elusive .com. Looked high, looked low, and guess what I found? Nothing. What I did find cost me an arm and a leg. So I did what every founder does under pressure. Threw in extra letters, settled for the less than optimal name. And here's what I wish someone had said to me back then. Noah, you're building a tech startup. Just get a .tech domain. Tech startup, .tech domain. It could not be more obvious. It tells investors, customers, and anyone who looks at your website, really, that tech is at the core of your build. And I've kicked myself plenty since, especially when I see the clean and sharp names tech companies have landed on .tech. Nothing.tech, 1x.tech, Aurora.tech, CES.tech, Ultra.tech, Alice.tech, Neon.tech, Blaze.tech, Pi.tech. You get the idea. So take it from someone who learned it the hard way. If you're building a tech startup, don't overthink it. Secure your .tech domain today from any registrar of your choice. This episode is brought to you by The Build, a new podcast from the guys behind Sincera, Mike O'Sullivan and Ian Myers. They built their company by figuring out clever solutions to a few important ad tech problems in the industry, and that's exactly what this show is about. Mike and Ian interview some of the smartest tech minds at Magnite, Chalice, DoubleClick, and LiveRamp to hear about how they identified opportunities, solved their hardest challenges, and grew their businesses in the process. This show is for you if you've had some of these breakthrough moments yourself, or if you're seeking inspiration for the next one. Listen to The Build with Mike O'Sullivan wherever you get your podcasts. Let's move into those next steps, right? How are you progressing and maturing it? How are you going to take it forward? And I'm curious about how you build your roadmap. How do you go about deciding that, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address?
There's two sides to that, actually. There's number one, it's when you're strategically building out a product roadmap, the most important thing that you want to look at is, if you're an infrastructure company like ours, you want to be building leverage in your product ecosystem. So you want to be building products that benefit each other and that work in cohesion with one another to start building out an ecosystem, very much like Apple has, right? Like they built the iPhone platform. As a result, they're able to build iPods. They're able to, now get into the smart glasses market and a lot of technologies that surround it that all interconnect perfectly on your one device. And so there's that side of it, building products that have leverage, and two, building products that the market needs right now. And so we're kind of lucky that we're able to sit right as the wave is starting to come. And what we're looking at doing now is building a lineup of products that are solving AI's biggest problems as of right now. The first one that we are planning on working on, and we've actually started to work on this, and it's probably going to take maybe a couple more months of R&D, is solving the memory and context layer for agent orchestration as well as parallel agent orchestration. If you play around with Perplexity Computer or Cloud Code or any of these other, or even Codex, you notice that in the first 10 minutes, you get pretty great results. If you want to build a website, any type of tool, whatever the case is, you get really great results. If you start using it for an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours on the same project, now you're starting to get diminishing returns, right? And your tokenization cost is going through the roof and you're burning through token. And it's very expensive to do. That's why we're seeing many companies, large scale enterprise as well, they're burning through their token budgets in the first quarter, what was planned for the fiscal year. And no one has really been able to solve the memory and context layer the way that we would be able to, because everyone is utilizing standard compression technologies that currently exist. And no one really has access to the proprietary tech that we have to be able to reduce it so drastically. And as a result, we would be able to enable parallel agent orchestration, or I should say true parallel agent orchestration, because of our core solution. Us being able to reduce data sizes so much means that if you have 5 agents building a website, and agent 1 is building the front end, agent 2 is building the back end, agent 3 is working on security and whatnot, every single time an agent does something, as of right now, it's not really talking to other agents, right? And even if it is, the data bloat is so large, it takes other agents so much time and energy to figure out what the original agent did, right? The same way that humans work, right? If I work on a project, I'm working with my team, I need to be communicating with my team back and forth that this is what I'm doing, this is what you're doing. But AI agents don't really work that way as of right now. We would be able to enable that with a middle layer solution to enable true parallel agent orchestration. One of the core attributes of our technology is that it allows for the seamless ingestion of new data. And so basically right now is, if you're a company that stores vectors in a vector database, every single time you want to add new data into that vector database, you actually have to basically delete the whole thing, re-upload the brand new data set that includes the new data, and re-vectorize the whole thing. And that's what companies are doing right now on a nightly basis. And it requires a designated team and a couple devs to be able to do it. It's expensive, it's time consuming, it's energy expensive, or energy intensive, I should say. And so what we are able to enable is true seamless data ingestion. So you don't need to wipe out your current vector database to add a new data. You can just ingest it seamlessly. And so as a result, every single time an agent performs some task and contributes to a repo or to a project, all other agents are able to get that context immediately. So that way they're building more scalable and thorough solutions rather than what people in the industry are now calling AI slop. And so that's the next iteration on the software side.
Let's flip to team. I'm curious about how you've built your team and what do you look for in those people to indicate that they are the winning horses to join you?
When you're in a position of leadership, there's two sides to you that says, one side says, do you want to hire the best talent in terms of the skill sets? And the other side of you tells you that you want to hire people that have great cultural fits. And it's all about finding a balance in between. What we've noticed is that we're better off having a team that is pretty good at a certain skill set, that are all great cultural fits, that work with one another, that have the ability to progress and self-learn and boost each other up, rather than just having one great performer that brings down the rest. Just like the saying goes, if you want to move fast, go alone, but if you want to move far, then you have to go with a group. And so we really prioritize cultural fit over almost anything else. It's probably our biggest weight in terms of what we look for when it comes to new hires and team members. If you are not the type of person that acts as a leader in your own department, in your own team, then it typically doesn't really fit. We really tell everybody that, hey, we don't believe in the traditional bureaucratic systems and designs that some large enterprise have to take on because of compartmentalization and whatnot. We want everybody involved in the project, and everybody's opinion matters. And you need to be fact-checking and cross-checking things with everybody else. We want to hear your inputs, and you need to be able to boost other people up when they're not getting work done, or if they're in a slump. And when you're in a slump, you can rely on them to help you out. And so it's all about helping each other get the job done. We're all focused on the same role. If you have people that are really great at what they do, but the ego gets in the way, then that typically doesn't really fit our criteria as a team. And so that, I would say that would be the biggest variable in terms of bringing on new team members. It's something that we value very much.
This episode is sponsored by Mesmo. If you're responsible for reliability, performance, or platform architecture, you already know the problem. Telemetry volume is growing faster than teams can manage it. Mesmo addresses this by moving observability upstream. Instead of storing everything and asking questions later, Mesmo processes telemetry in motion, filtering, transforming, and enriching logs, metrics, and traces before they reach your observability backend. The result is cleaner data, reduced ingestion costs, and faster root cause analysis using the tools you already rely on. Mesmo integrates with platforms like Datadog, Dynatrace, and open source stacks, giving teams more control without adding operational overhead. This is especially useful for platform engineers and SREs supporting complex distributed systems where context and speed matter. To see how active telemetry works in practice, get a demo at mesmo.com/codestory. That's MEZMO.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by BrainGrid. Building with AI coding tools is exciting until the moment things start breaking. You ask for a small change and suddenly 3 other features stop working. AI gets confused, misses edge cases, and loses track of your intent. The problem is not code generation. The problem is planning. That is why BrainGrid exists. BrainGrid acts as your product management agent. It writes clear specification, maps UX flows, asks the clarifying questions you forgot to ask, and breaks big ideas into engineering-grade tasks that AI coding tools can build reliably. It guides Cursor, Claude Code, Replit, Windsurf, and others so they deliver features that work and keep working. Founders use BrainGrid to build real AI-native SaaS products without a technical background. If you want reliable features instead of fragile prototypes, try BrainGrid for free at braingrid.ai. That's braingrid.ai.
This will be interesting. I'm curious about scalability and how you approached scale from the beginning, from the early days, and also have there been interesting areas where you've had to fight scale as you've grown?
Because of our technology and what it is that we're able to do in terms of reducing data size, scalability actually hasn't been much of an issue for us. Even if we're talking about utilizing cloud services and whatnot, horizontally scaling, we haven't really had to do that much, because when you're able to reduce vectors pre-ingestion, you don't need, you hit that bottleneck much later rather than sooner. And we haven't even gotten to the point with our pilots and the new client that we're onboarding right now where that's been a problem for us. And it's something that we're definitely considering for the future. I always like to plan months ahead that if we hit certain conditions, we need to start acting on some of these contingency methods and whatnot. But scaling up in terms of tech infrastructure has not been a big issue because of the nature of the solution itself. However, in terms of scaling up the team, we have a lot of plans to be able to scale really fast. We're in the midst of raising our seed round. We're raising an $8 million round at $100 million pre-money valuation. And we're on the brink of closing out a deal to be able to do. And our plan is to scale as much as possible, as fast as possible. Like many other startups, speed is everything. And because we want to get into the hardware space with iterations on the Keyboy, as well as developing out our software product suite, scaling out teams is going to be the most important factor in terms of that. And we're starting to actively work on hiring and recruiting pipelines as of right now, defining roles and personas for those roles to make sure that we're getting the best hires and the best talent that we possibly can.
Okay, as you step out on the balcony and you look across all that you've built thus far, what are you most proud of?
I'm definitely most proud of the Keyboy as of right now, because nobody has really done something like that ever before. People have put Wikipedia on a Raspberry Pi. That's not something new. And people have put small languages on Raspberry Pis, but the form factor is not as small. It still requires an internet connection. It still requires third-party service providers. We're able to do it purely on the edge in the span of a weekend. That's something that's tangible, that's physical, you could hold in your hand. You can actually ask it questions and see it come to life, and you're like, holy cow, how does this even work? I'm not connecting to any servers. I'm not doing any of this stuff. And I'm getting better results. If I were to utilize Claude's latest and greatest model or Gemini's latest and greatest model in conjunction with this data on server-side infrastructure, I'm getting better results on the edge with a smaller model, right? And that's something that I'm very proud of. That was a very fun project. Tinkering and building things physically is always great because you have an idea in your mind, and that's why we get into software dev, is that it's an easy way for you to ideate things and bring them to life. But when you're able to build it in the physical world, that's a whole new level of satisfaction when you're able to hold it in your hand.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
I would say the biggest mistake actually that we made was figuring out what we wanted to do and focus on, because with our technology, there's so many different routes you can take, right? You can go into hardware, you can go into infrastructure products, you can go into B2C products. What industries do you want to focus on? How do you want to play this whole thing? And we went down through so many different rabbit holes of figuring out where do we fit best. And we started exploring so many different technologies, satellites, autonomous drone systems, you name it. And we have a massive impact on all of those things, and we can definitely work on all those things. But the number one rule that I think that we forgot about for a while was just keep it simple, right? Keep it simple, work on the thing that you can get done the quickest, that has a good level of impact, test it, get customers to review it, give it away for free, figure out what's good about it, what's bad about it, review, and then iterate. Right? Especially if you're a startup and you're going to market, you're looking to raise a round and generate some revenue. Speed is everything. If you get caught up in the research stage for a year, that's where a lot of startups do die, because you're burning through so much funding so quickly. And we tried to throw as many darts on the board, if you will, and then see what sticks. And we had noticed what stuck prior, but we still chose to explore other rabbit holes. I think going back the past 6-7 months, if we had just decided to, hey, we're going to focus on this B2B product that we now have, which is called Katana, we would have been able to go to market with it much quicker. However, I think all mistakes are really great. I don't think a lot of these are really blunders. They're learning opportunities. And as a result, we did get some great things out of it. We got to explore what impact we would have on different sectors and whatnot. So whenever we talk to people in the government and in the private sector regarding any type of technology, if you're data centers, energy, satellites, autonomous AI systems, we have an answer and we can talk to you and have a great conversation about it. But in terms of business and actually going to market, I would say focusing on the simple stuff, keeping it simple throughout the process, and only focusing on the tasks that really push the needle forward, and just letting go of everything else was probably the biggest mistake.
This episode is sponsored by Unblocked. Your coding agents have access to your code base. Maybe you even connected other tools via MCPs. But access doesn't mean context. Agents can't reason across MCPs. They don't know your architectural decisions, your team's patterns, or why the API was shaped the way it is. So agents look in the wrong place and deliver bad outputs. Then you spend time correcting. More loops, more tokens. Unblocked is the context layer your agents are missing. It synthesizes your PRs, docs, Slack, and tickets into organizational context that agents actually understand. So they make better plans, write higher quality code, use fewer tokens, and require fewer correction loops. If you're running Claude Code, Cursor, or any agentic workflow, Unblocked is worth a look. Learn more at getunblocked.com/codestory. Okay, let's move forward then. What does the future look like for Morphos AI, for the products? You mentioned Key and Keyboy and Katana, all the things, where the industry is going. I'm really curious to hear what the future looks like.
We want to build our next product. We're internally calling it Deep Sea, but we're definitely going to have to change the name on that because it's too close to Deep Seek and we don't want people mistaking the two. But Deep Sea was what I talked about earlier in terms of that memory and context layer solution for agent orchestration. And so we want to build that out, and we are actively looking into acquiring other companies. We're very blessed to have a great network of investors and people that are willing to fund some of these deals. And we want to be able to acquire vector storage companies and be able to provide vector storage at a much cheaper rate than what industry and individuals are currently paying for. In terms of development on the software side, the one thing that I'm most excited about that I can talk about now is what we're internally calling Project Darkstar, which is a new model architecture that we believe is going to be monumentally impactful in industry. And what that is, instead of embedding intelligence into models via training and large data sets, we actually embed intelligence into the memory. And so instead of right now, if you want to build a brand new model, you got to, let's just say a convolutional neural network, but you got to flood it with an absolute ton of training data. You have to make sure it doesn't overfit or underfit, but you have to go through that entire process. Building these models is very expensive. It requires a lot of hardware if you're doing it on-prem. And if you're not, then server-side technology, you run up the build pretty quick with building in new models. That's why a lot of these AI labs need to have a good amount of funding for R&D. And so the problem with that is that once you've trained the model, it's only good at what it's been trained on. So every single time you want to add new intelligence into it, now you have to retrain it on that new intelligence. And yeah, there's techniques to do it and companies are definitely doing it, but it's a whole process and it's a very large lift. And it doesn't fit on small IoT devices, right? In order to run these models, you need specialist hardware. That's why NVIDIA stock has been booming, because now you're going to be utilizing their GPUs, their server racks, and all their other platforms to power these AI workflows that also are very energy hungry. So your electricity bill is going to go up. What Darkstar would do is that it allows you to utilize a single neural network, let's just say a convolutional neural network, and you can hot swap the intelligence by hot swapping the data. Just like a Game Boy, I'm assuming you played with the Game Boy when you were younger, or maybe even today.
Oh,
correct?
yeah. I mean, it's been a while, but yeah.
Awesome. So you know how the games used to come in Game Boy cartridges, right? And so if you would just want to play a different game, you just take one cartridge out and you put a new one in. So we're actually planning on doing that with the Keyboy. Right now, Wikipedia has been downloaded onto the Pi itself, or I should say onto the memory of the Pi itself. And what we're going to be doing is creating these data cartridges where you can hot swap the data sets, right? To prove that you can inference any data set by hot swapping it, and it's all in very small form factor. And so as a result, with Project Darkstar, you'd be able to utilize a single model and then hot swap data in and out to change the intelligence. So you can, for example, utilize one model and then upload a data set of dogs and cats. And every single time you take a picture with this device, let's just say your phone, it simply reduces, it vectorizes that image, reduces the vectors because of our technology, and then runs vector similarity searches with the memory layer that has all the vector signatures of different dogs and cats to be able to determine what breed am I looking at, right? And you can apply that across all model types when it comes to vision models, audio models, you name it. And so that's a big play that we're very excited about, because it enables small devices to be able to host very lightweight models that already run on the chips that we have in existence as of right now, like on iPhones and Androids and whatnot. People are building their chips to be really great at some of this stuff. We would enable a really lightweight model to be hosted completely locally on the edge. And whenever you wanted to specialize in a certain type of model type, I should say, then you just hot swap the data set that you want it to refer back to. And if it's dogs and cats one day, but the next day you want to upload a data set of vehicles to figure out how you can fix your car or fix this broken down Humvee if you're in the military, you'll be able to just hot swap that data set in, take pictures, ask questions, and it would be able to inference that data set, everything regarding the whatever it is that you uploaded. And so that would be monumentally important when it comes to AI on edge devices, as well as empowering your IoT devices to be able to process AI workflows.
Let's switch to you, Ankit. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to, and why.
I've looked up to, I would say, growing up, a lot of athletes, NBA athletes, the Kobe Bryants, the Michael Jordans, the LeBron James. In my early years, in terms of just learning what discipline looks like, learning what work ethic looks like, and if you want to make great impact or even any impact, the amount of work that actually goes into it, being able to hear it from them and the people that play at the top of their game was really impactful on me at a young age in order to chase excellence and trying to get as good as I possibly can at my skill set. Now going into my later years and entering industry and actually working on things, I would say some big inspirations for me are people like Jensen Huang, CEO of NVIDIA. I would say the typical Steve Jobs, and now Tim Cook as well has done an excellent job with Apple. Palmer Luckey has been a big inspiration as of late, especially the past couple of years with his work on what he did with the Oculus Rift and now what he's doing at Anduril. Being able to look at some of these figures and see that you build amazing stuff and you have large companies and amazing funding and all these things, yet you still clock in so many hours, yet you're still constantly working on solutions, yet you never take it easy and get lax and lazy with your approaches, and you're just always a professional, has been very humbling. A lot of people believe that once you raise your round and you can take it easy a little bit, you can relax, you're getting paid, but the fun part really begins. For me, it's once you raise a round and you start working with clients and whatnot, the responsibility only increases. And so for me, I've never attached success with the raising of the round. I've never attached success with the amount of revenue we're generating. I've always attached success with, did you show up today? Did you put in the work? Are you working on something cool? And are you trying to push the needle forward even just a little bit every single day? Just being a little bit better than yesterday has been the goal for me. And so consistency has always been something that I've aimed for, rather than just feeling motivated and trying to do things and sell it and get a quick win. It's always been the consistent work. And with that being said, instead of thinking of months, weeks or months in terms of progress or even a year, thinking in decades, right? There was an interview that Jensen Huang did about years ago. And he said, I don't need to make an impact on the world in a year, right? I can do that in 50 years. And that really speaks to their mindset and their vision. Said, I'm committed to what it is that we're doing for decades. And as a result, I'm going to be able to do a lot of work.
I got one more question. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world, and can't wait to show it off to you right there in the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
You know, when you've built something amazing that you think is going to be truly impactful, you get super excited about it, and you always feel like it's going to be the next big thing and it's going to change the world and do all these things. But you have to realize that it's your baby. And as a result, you're going to be the most excited about it. Your ability to articulate value and translate it in a way that other people can now feel excited about it is arguably going to be more important than the thing itself, right? If I can't get people to get excited about what it is that I'm building, then as a result, it's going to be very difficult to bring on hires when you're trying to hire A-level players and the best of the best in the industry. It's going to be very difficult when you're trying to raise a round. It's going to be near impossible to even get customers to want to actually buy what it is that you have. And if you're an engineer, for example, and you've built some amazing creation, which a lot of engineers do, I would say the biggest piece of advice that I would get is learning how to articulate its value in very simple terms and getting other people excited about it. If you can get other people excited about it, you can get them kinetic about it. And if they're kinetic, that's where things happen, because you're going to need people to help you. When it comes to building a company, it's never a one-man team. You're always going to need help, right? If that's in the form of VCs, customers, team members, whoever. Now your role is going to be starting to shift more into being a people person. And so that is something that I see a lot of founders struggle with, especially technical founders. They struggle with articulation. They struggle with motivating other people and projecting the vision and getting people excited about it. So that would be probably the most important.
That's fantastic advice. Thank you for being on the show today, and thank you for telling the creation story of Morphos AI.
Noah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
Capital One's tech team isn't just talking about multi-agentic AI. They already deployed one. It's called Chat Concierge, and it's simplifying car shopping. Using self-reflection and layered reasoning with live API checks, it doesn't just help buyers find a car they love. It helps schedule a test drive, get pre-approved for financing, and estimate trade-in value. Advanced, intuitive, and deployed. That's how they stack. That's technology at Capital One.
Most people don't realize how much their personal information is being bought and sold every day. Data brokers are making billions pulling details about you from public records and the internet, and then packaging and selling it, usually without your consent. That's how your information lands in the hands of scammers, spammers, even stalkers. It's why you get endless robocalls and why ads seem to follow you everywhere. That's where Aura comes in. Aura actively removes your data from broker sites and keeps it off. They also instantly alert you if your information shows up in a breach or on the dark web. But Aura goes beyond data protection. With one app, you get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and even up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. All backed by 24/7 US-based fraud support. Other companies might sell just credit monitoring or just a VPN. Aura gives you all of it, together, at the same price competitors charge for just one service. Start your free trial today at aura.com/remove. Protect yourself now at aura.com/remove.